Sarah Watson.
My name is Eli Nutter.
My name is Eric Blanton.
We are John and Margaret Wolf.
My name is Phil Winteregg.
And I'm ready.
I'm ready.
And I'm ready.
And we're ready.
I'm ready.
My name is Eric Blanton, and I'm ready to testify. So I'm Eric Blanton. You guys may recognize me from the CJC worship team. I've been serving there for about 8 years now. Originally grew up in a town in northwest Kansas and moved down here in 2013 to take a job in the oil patch. Yeah, so I grew up, again, in a real small town, had a big group, great friends. It was a really good place to grow up, had a fantastic, loving parents and an older brother. We did a lot of things together. My parents were two peas in a pod. They were always walking together, riding bikes, just inseparable. So I've always kind of been musically inclined. Started playing instruments when I was really young, and by the time I was a teenager, I was playing drums at an Assembly of God church that we attended at the time, and my mom sang on the worship team. Teenage years were good. They were going as most teenage years would go. And then on December 6th, 2005, my mom just suddenly passed away. She would often go down to the basement. She had a little study room down there, and she would read her Bible every morning. And one morning she went down at about 5:30 a.m. and didn't come up. My dad had breakfast ready, so he went down there to kind of see what was going on, and found her there sitting in the chair with the Bible at her feet. I remember getting woken up by my dad coming in and saying, "Son, something horrible has happened. Your mom, she's passed away." And I remember, like, right when I woke up, I heard these cries from my brother downstairs. So I followed my dad downstairs, and we get about halfway down the stairs, and I could look over into that room, and my brother's on his knees in the door jamb, just wailing, and I see her. And it was a crippling moment for sure.
How old were you at the time?
I was 14. I was like 22 days away from my 15th birthday. Man, grief is something that's kind of unexplainable almost. It's just this unescapable misery that it's just like a hole. It's just been pulled right out of your chest, out of your heart. And I know the day of, it was just like trying to grasp at what had really just happened. And it's just like you're in a vacuum. Like there's nothing that you can grab a hold of or anything to make things seem real. And I remember I had friends come over and everything, and that helped to get out and, kind of get away from everything for a little bit. And going forward, just, over time, things got easier to cope with day to day. Honestly, I just tried to stay busy. But one thing, growing up in a small town, drinking was very popular. It's kind of the normal thing to do. So I really started dabbling in that really soon after my mom passed away, and never responsibly, always in excess. And I was just trying to cope, and I would use that a lot to cope with the pain. And I was still active in sports and still fairly successful in sports. And coming into my senior year, things were kind of escalating on the party scene. I would drink in excess probably every weekend. And I was just really uncomfortable emotionally. I feel like I was reaching and striving for acceptance from certain people or trying to compare myself to others. It just kind of felt like I was on an island alone, emotionally. And while I seemed very present, I had, again, great friends and was active with everybody. It just seemed like I was the light was dimming a little bit, I was getting more negative, getting probably more depressed, just having a hard time finding my place. And then fall of my senior year, I ended up having a motorcycle accident where I jumped my dirt bike and I went over the handlebars and I landed on my head. And stupidly, I got up and had a buddy give me a ride up to the house. I called my dad. He picked me up. Ended up going to the ER and had a fractured C7 vertebrae in my neck. And that ended up getting a flight for life to Denver that night. And it's kind of a miracle because the fracture went all the way down to my spinal cord and just stopped. And naturally, leaving the hospital, I was prescribed some opiate pain medication, and that was kind of my first experience with that. And that didn't necessarily become an addiction, but it was kind of like a surplus on top of alcohol and drinking. Like if it was around, there's a good chance that I was going to take some, and that's a pretty dangerous way to live. After high school, I ended up getting an offer to come play junior college baseball there in my hometown. And going into that, I still really didn't have a sense of who I was, and things just kept it's like compounding mistakes. You enter into college and you get exposed to different personalities. The talent level is way different. So trying to, step up and fit in with some of these groups of people was challenging. And just comparing myself to others, trying to get acceptance into certain groups of people. That was a big thing that kind of drove me into more of the party scene. And that college is when it kind of escalated into multiple days a week. We would party Wednesdays, Fridays, Saturday, and then these my teammates at the time, a lot of them were from Colorado, and they could get their hands on marijuana, so they all shared a house there in town. They rented a house. We called it the baseball house, but kind of worked out this deal where they brought that stuff down in large quantities, and then I would help distribute it around town. So did a little stint as a drug dealer as well, I guess, by definition. So after my first year at JUCO, they send you off to different parts of the state during the summer to play ball. And I made a lot of improvements, was coming back pretty strong. The coaches were pretty excited about the progress I had made, but I feel like I just kind of partied that opportunity away. I just kind of lost interest in excelling anymore. But I did finish junior college, and then I transferred to a 4-year university about an hour and a half away, and took the same problems and took them there. And I made it a semester through that school, before I ultimately dropped out, and I was just working this job there in town. Still same old, drinking multiple days a week. And I kind of got to a point where I was just very, very depressed. I had verbally made some suicidal remarks to some friends, but I was never going to act on those, but it caused me to really live recklessly as far as how I drank or, added anything on top of alcohol into my body. So I hit a low spot there, just knew that I needed a reset. So I moved back home and started working a job there locally as a construction laborer. And I'd like to say things got better, but it was just a different environment. I do feel like my psychological state did improve a little bit for some reason, but I was still living pretty recklessly. I ended up going to a little vocational program which landed me a job in the oil and gas industry down here in Hobbs. So I moved down here, and soon after met a girl that I started a relationship with, and I still hadn't changed much, and things were kind of going badly, I would say. And she desperately wanted me to attend church with her and her family. So, I was just like, well, I got to hold on to this relationship. So I started coming to Cowboy Junction on Monday nights with them. This was probably 2014. And I started hearing or getting like a tugging on my heart, having my toes stepped on. But it was really, I would shrug it off. I had turned away from the church soon after my mom passed away. I just felt hurt, felt like something that wasn't supposed to be taken away was taken away by God. And I never really fixed those feelings, and I was dead set on never stepping foot into another church until I made that commitment to her, not myself or God or anything. And so we attended Cowboy Junction several times, and then Crosswinds Community Church also here in town. And ultimately we ended up breaking up, largely in part to my bad habits. And we were broken up for probably about a month or so. And then, I had quit drinking for a short stint there, and we got back together, and nothing really fixed. I was still partying, maybe not as much. And then we ended up getting engaged, and I think that was more of a move to try to fix and mend something that was never going to work in the first place. We both were young and had a lot of growing to do, for sure. So I think right at the end of 2015, or maybe early 16, we broke up, called off the engagement. And while that was the right thing to do, it was still a very hard choice. So I was kind of going through the loss on that, and did what I knew best on how to cope with that stuff, and I started drinking heavily again. Thank goodness it never affected my job or anything. It's more of a weekend deal, but it was hard Friday, Saturday, and better part of Sunday. And I just began to get really down and depressed. And I kind of latched on to this one friend of mine who was kind of similar personality at the time. And I remember one night we were heavily intoxicated and we got on the topic of suicide or something. And I don't exactly remember what I was trying to prove, but I went back into my bedroom and I grabbed a pistol. And I brought it out and held it at my head. And I remember pulling the trigger, and apparently I had been coherent enough to make sure that was unloaded. And that was a pretty sobering moment. The next morning, just why, what was the purpose behind that? But it didn't really fix anything still. I didn't make any behavioral changes. And I don't remember exactly how long it had been, but soon after I had another friend over and we were again intoxicated, and we got on the topic of guns, and I brought that gun back out, and I was mainly just showing him how the trigger functioned. You know, I was like, hey, this is pretty cool. This trigger's really light. It feels really good. And I pulled the trigger and that thing shot into the back of my backsplash in my kitchen. And that was a jaw-dropping moment for me. That was like, the difference between those two nights, considering the state of mind I was in, is so minute that I don't know, it shook me, and that was a real low spot. That Sunday after that pistol incident was a long day. I did a lot of dwelling on where I was at emotionally, spiritually, everything, and I just knew that I couldn't continue like that anymore. So that Monday night, the following Monday, I came to a Cowboy Junction service and dedicated my life to Christ. I remember sitting there in like the third row, and that altar call was coming on, and my heart was beating out of my chest. I felt flush, I felt warm, and I just knew that was the right step for me at that time, and greatest choice I've ever made. And so after that, I started attending weekly, usually Monday night, and then I saw a video for tryouts for the worship team. And I remember I messaged Fabian Grimes on Facebook and asked him if they needed an acoustic guitarist. And he responded, or said, "Do you need an acoustic guitar?" And he said, "Yeah, how much?" And I was like, "No, I mean, for the team." And he's like, "Yeah, come try out." So I tried out. And started playing on the band. I think it was towards the end of 2016. And as time went on, early or towards the end of 2016, I met Sadie Allen, who's now my wife. But I still had some questions, I think, with my faith. I was still pretty young, or really young in my walk. Pre-existing behaviors that I had with drinking and stuff, that I would get conviction when I did that. So, I just knew that didn't need to be part of my life. So I had cut that way back, actually almost completely. And, I remember coming to youth as a leader one night, and Sadie was there, and we just started talking, and we continued talking, and things clicked pretty quick, and it just seemed like we had known each other forever. And things started to feel like they were going to get pretty serious, and it kind of frightened me a little bit, just because not too long ago I had this damaged past, so I wanted to make sure that she knew that. So we I laid it all out for her, explained everything, and it grew us closer, that honesty. So we dated all through the beginning of 2017 and actually got engaged in August of 2017 and married in November of 2017. And things were going great, and I feel like I had all this pressure self-inflicted pressure on myself. I was trying to do everything by the book and be right, and I had a lot of questions still, like why do I deserve this marriage, this family that I married into? They're amazing warriors for the kingdom. I felt like I was unqualified, and I guess I let my guard down, and or I thought, things were good now. Maybe I could handle some drinking, and that wasn't the case. And the first year of our marriage was a battle with that. It was like when I would drink, those insecurities I had would become more vocal. And we went on a trip for our 1-year anniversary, and when we got back, I just knew that if I was going to be the man of God that I'm being called to be the husband for Sadie that I need to be, and ultimately be the father that I need to be, that part of me had to die. And that day I made the decision, like, I'm done, that's got to go. And it's been going on 6 years now that I haven't had a drop of alcohol. And in that time, when I, cut ties with all that, I really started to digest some of those feelings that I was having, and ultimately just had to come out of agreement with those lies that I didn't deserve this, that, I'm unqualified to be on the worship team, unqualified to be a husband or father or anything because of my past. And a relationship with the Father isn't a performance-based relationship, and what I mean by that is you don't have to perform to receive the Father's love. That it's a relationship based on love and grace, and it's more of like I going to do my best because the Father loves me. And when I fail, I know that grace and love is still there. And ultimately, those things helped me overcome those lies and really pursue the beyond the most noble pursuit, which is ultimately to be Christ-like. Coming to Christ, I've found a real purpose in life, and that it takes work to be on a walk of faith with Christ, and it's constantly dying to your flesh daily and loving God and loving people. And I've experienced more joy now than I have ever before. I feel more whole and complete, and it's just a freeing feeling knowing that you don't have anything to hide, and that you were created anew in Christ Jesus so that you can do the things that He's planned for you to do. And if anybody's has that hesitation in their heart that I did, my advice would be, come to the Father and come as you are. God doesn't expect us to be perfect. I listened to this message a long time ago, and this touched me. And The pastor at the time talked about how his child had gotten sick one night, and he went into the room, and his daughter, had gotten the flu or something and made a mess all of herself in the bed. And she just reached up and said, "Daddy." And he said, "I did not turn around and tell her to go clean herself up and then approach me. I picked her up and embraced her." And that's how God looks at us, as sons and daughters. So come as you are. It just takes a sliver of curiosity that can provoke healing in the areas that you haven't found healing for in any other substance or anything worldly. I am still a member on the CJC worship team. Sadie and I will be celebrating our 7th year of marriage this year. We have 2 beautiful children, both daughters, so I'm outnumbered, but it's great. I love it. And I'm just on this Christ walk and or faith walk, and I'm still not perfect. I falter still sometimes. I kind of look at it like a graph of a good stock fund. If you zoom in to even 1 week, you'll see these dips and gains. But if you zoom out to about a 5-year period, that slopes up. You draw a straight line through it. And that's, as humans, we are going to fail. And that's when God's grace and love is there to bring us up. And even in your low spots, God is with you, walking through that with you. So I'm excited to see what God has for us in the future, and look forward to seeing what all there is.